Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Raja Nadir Jalal with part 3 of my interpersonal skills video series for PLAB 2. I hope you must have seen that my part 1 and part 2 of this series. In part 1, we discussed what are interpersonal skills and why they are important. And then we discussed how we should start our consultation and what are the basic interpersonal or communication skills for history taking. In part two, we discussed some very common situations which, as a junior doctor, you can come across or you can face in your PLAB 2 exam. This part three is also very important. Anyone who has not watched my previous videos, I would recommend please watch from part one and then watch part two, and in this way you will be in a better position to understand uh, whatever I have discussed in these videos. So this part three is specifically about interpersonal skills for exploring sensitive issues. There are many situations in which you have to be very careful, and you should be well expert to ask questions so that patient is not offended or a patient doesn't feel embarrassed. So let's move to first slide, and this is about how to take sexual history. As a doctor, you have to take sexual history, and in many diseases, it is very important to explore about sexual history of the patient. So it is very important that you signpost first before asking any questions about sexual health of the patient. So how you can start taking sexual history? First of all, as I discussed, that you should signpost. You can say that I want to ask you about your sexual health. Is that okay with you? You can further explain that throughout the consultation, I may need to ask you a few questions about your lifestyle. Will that be okay? In a way, you are taking consent from the patient. Then further, you can explain that I would like to ask a few symptoms that can present with infections down below. Is that okay? If patient is feeling embarrassed, that you can acknowledge that by saying that I can see that you are a little embarrassed. We see this type of thing almost daily as doctor. Your symptoms are actually very common. In this way, patient may feel comfortable, and we patient will feel it very easy to open up and discuss about his or her problems related to sexual health. You can say that I can see you are uncomfortable. Would you prefer to see a female or male doctor? And important part of sexual history is asking about the partner and nature of the relationship. For this history, again, you can signpost, I would like to ask a few questions about your partner history, if okay with you. These questions can be important in these situations. Then you can ask, are you married or do you have a partner? Is your partner a male or a female? Are you in a stable relationship? Are you sexually active? Do you have idea about safe sex practice? I mean, using condoms. Do you practice safe sex? Do you practice oral sex, vaginal sex, or anal sex? And have you ever been diagnosed with or treated for sexually transmitted disease, including HIV? And if you want to ask about the biological father of a child, it is better to ask that did you and your partner plan this pregnancy? And if the lady says that no, this is not the biological father of this child, then you will be in a better position to explore more. And another question, how often do you have sex? You don't need to ask this question in every case. Only ask in cases of fertility. If someone comes for a consultation about infertility, then you can ask, how often do you have sex? Or next situation is asking questions about psychiatric history. This is also a sensitive issue, and everyone is not comfortable answering these questions. Again, signposting is very important. You have to tell the patient that I would like to ask you a few questions about your thoughts and how you are feeling. Some may apply to you, but some may seem a little strange, but please bear with me. So you have to ask about hallucinations. So you can ask, have you ever heard voices in your head? Sometimes when people feel like this, they can hear voices of people who are not around. Is this ever the case with you? You can say sometimes when people feel low like this, they often feel like life is not worth it. Or sometimes they think or plan about ending their life. Is this ever the case? So this question is to assess the suicidal risk or risk of self harm. You can explain to the patient that these thoughts and symptoms are actually very common. You are certainly not alone in experiencing this, and you can assure reassure the patient that there is lots that can be done to help your symptoms. Then you need to ask about the insight. You can ask, are you always aware that you are feeling like this, hearing these things, having these thoughts, and how do you feel about them? Sometimes when people feel like this, they can turn to things to help cope, such as smoking, alcohol, drugs perhaps. Can I check if this is the case with yourself? This is another very important question in psychiatry history. You can further ask, sometimes people benefit from talking through their symptoms with someone who is a lot more experienced with these than we are. How do you feel about this? This question is to check the willingness of the patient to be referred to mental health services such as counseling, CBT, or psychiatric assessment. You can phrase it in a different way, that I am actually a little worried by the things that you have been telling me. I would actually like you to see another colleague of mine before you leave today. So this is about psychiatric evaluation. If you think that patient is having a risk of self-harm or harming to others, or you need immediate assessment by a senior psychiatric colleague. Another situation is when you encounter a depressed patient. These type of patient may not be having they not may not be making eye contact, they not be willing to discuss their issues. So you have to acknowledge by saying that I can see you are sad. Is everything okay? Would you like to share with me your feelings? We are here to help you. And we actually see depression very frequently. Often people do not realize that they are depressed for many, many years. And I am glad you came for help. Let's aim to get you back to how you used to be. If patient is self-blaming, then you can say that please don't blame yourself. You have done nothing to cause this depression. Often we don't have any control over whether it comes or not. Sometimes we can pinpoint why depression happens, and often we can't. Either way, it can be treated. So you have to gain trust of the patient by telling these things to your depressed patient. You can ask about social support network by asking, is there anyone who you turn to on a particularly bad day? This is to ask about family and friends. And then you can explain to the patient that there are several ways that we can help, ranging from self-help, talking therapies to medications. You can ask about future plans. This is to give you a better idea about how much depressed the patient is. You can ask, have you thought of anything that you can look forward, for example, going on a holiday or joining your favorite course or having a dream job or getting married? So if a patient has future plans, it means there is less suicidal risk in this patient. Another sensitive situation might be in dealing with non-accidental injury. This is very sensitive issue, and you have to keep in mind when you take history, and you need good interpersonal skills and good communication skills. You can ask, could you please take me through what exactly happened? Because we are just trying to put together the story. If a patient says, are you blaming me, or are you blaming to my boyfriend that I have done this harm to my child? You can say that no one is blaming anyone here. Our number one concern is the safety of the child. And unfortunately, given what has happened, it is not something that I can let go. We have to see further in detail, because I am little concerned that the story doesn't seem to match up. This type of injury, for example, spiral, fracture, or a lot of bruises. So this type of injury doesn't usually happen with the story that you just described. Mrs. J, I am really worried about what we have seen and heard with regards to this injury. I think this needs a slightly larger assessment by someone with a lot more experience than us in this area. Rather than saying that you are going to involve your senior consultant or you are going to involve social services, this is a better way to explain to the patient. If patient is worried that his or her child might be taken away by social services, you can explain that no one is going to take your child away. The number one aim would be to keep the children with you. It's just that the environment needs to be safe first. So this is how you can deal with non-accidental injury. Then there might be a case, suspected case of domestic violence, and mostly people are reluctant to talk about domestic violence or elderly abuse. So in cases of domestic violence and adult safeguarding, you can proceed like this. Mrs. Smith, do you have any concerns about going home? Do you feel safe at home? You can say you seem a little bit frightened. Please tell me a little bit more about your situation at home. Mrs. Smith, everything you say in this room is confidential unless there is a concern about your safety. You can say, I can understand that it may be difficult to talk about certain things, but please don't worry, we are here to help you. Sometimes you have to encourage the patient by saying, Mrs. Smith, any type of violence, whether physical, verbal, or psychological, is completely illegal and you don't need to put up with it at all. Please don't feel you are alone. Mrs. Smith, unfortunately, violence is always a complicated issue and we must look into its details to stop it happening in the future. We are worried about your safety. I am really sorry that you are going through such a challenging situation. Please be assured that you are not alone and there are so many people who can help you. We can help you in many ways. You can ask, have you considered approaching for advice and help about all this? If patient says no, then you can ask why. There might be some fears, there might be some obstacle, there might be some problems with finances. You have to explore these and you have to address these concerns and fears accordingly. You can offer that we can contact relevant people for you if this is easier and we can get you in touch with them, right? And this is the end of part 3 of my interpersonal skill videos, and hope you must have got some useful tips and information. And thank you for watching this video. Again, don't forget to watch part 1 and part 2 and remaining parts of this series. Subscribe to my channel for new and interesting videos and please press the bell icon. And this is the medical disclaimer. You can read it on your own. This is also very important. And thank you very much, guys, and see you with the rest of the videos of this series. Thank you very much, and bye bye, and have a nice time.